Imagine for a moment that you're walking through the narrow streets of a medieval French city. The year is 1709. Winter is approaching. The shadows grow longer with each passing day. Suddenly, you hear desperate screams echoing off the ancient stones. These aren't screams of war, nor of celebration. These are screams of pure terror. In just one night, a single creature managed to cause a massacre that would forever mark the history of medieval France. 15 people brutally attacked, 5 dead. And the most disturbing part of all, this was just a small fragment of something much larger. Because what I'm going to tell you today isn't about an isolated incident. We're talking about more than 9,000 documented victims throughout the centuries. 9,000 people who came face to face with one of the most feared forces of medieval Europe. It was the 17th of September, 1709, and the city of Louviers in Normandy was about to live its worst nightmare. The medieval streets that still exist today witnessed one of the most brutal demonstrations of savagery ever recorded in French history. But before we continue, you need to understand the context. 18th century France was not an easy place to live. Between 1619 and 1694, 5 plagues devastated Louviers. In 1705, a hurricane destroyed lives and livelihoods. And now, without anyone knowing it, one of the most terrible winters was about to begin. It was in this scenario of vulnerability that something emerged from the shadows. A creature that had lost all natural fear of humans, driven by a fury that the science of the time couldn't explain. You see, when a wild creature is affected by certain neurological conditions, it enters what specialists call the furious phase. Its instinct is no longer to feed normally. It's to destroy, to tear, to shred, to create maximum chaos possible before its own condition kills it. And this creature had chosen Louviers as its battleground. The first victims were found in the early morning hours. The wounds were indescribable. These weren't marks of normal predation. It was as if something had attacked with the sole objective of causing maximum suffering. Local authorities were perplexed. Traps had been placed throughout the region, deep pits dug in the known paths of these creatures. Some of these pits can still be found today, over 6.5 feet deep, lined with stones and wider at the base. Several streets still bear names related to these traps. But this creature was different, too smart, or perhaps too desperate to care about traps. Now, before I reveal what kind of creature caused this massacre and why this should concern you even today, make sure to hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell, because what I'm going to show you now will completely change your perspective on one of the most misunderstood species on the planet. We're talking about a wolf. More specifically, a rabid wolf. Or could it have been something more, as images from the era seem to suggest? Well, it's known that a rabid wolf is literally a walking nightmare. Rabies completely destroys the animal's natural instincts, replacing them with blind and destructive fury. They don't attack to eat. They attack to destroy everything they encounter. And this wasn't an isolated case. The University of Caen conducted an extraordinary research study that meticulously mapped every documented wolf attack from the Middle Ages to the 20th century in France. The result? 9,031 officially recorded victims. To put this in perspective, during the medieval period, wolves were a constant and real threat to European communities. Unlike the fairy tales we know today, these animals truly represented a mortal danger. The attacks followed specific seasonal patterns. Late spring was particularly dangerous, when female wolves needed to stay in fixed areas to protect their cubs, making them more aggressive. Harsh winters also dramatically increased attacks, when hunger desperately affected both humans and animals alike. The Normandy region developed an entire folklore around these creatures. They believed in le varou, a French version of the werewolf. But you know what's the scariest part? Many of these legends may have been based on real encounters with rabid wolves, whose erratic and supernatural behavior really seemed otherworldly. Medieval communities developed ingenious methods to protect themselves. In addition to traps, they nailed wolf paws to house doors to ward off bad luck. Priests held vigils in cemeteries because they believed wolves desecrated graves. But here's the question that won't go away. What are these attacks like nowadays? The answer will surprise you. A 2021 scientific study conducted by the Norwegian Institute for Nature Research analyzed wolf attacks between 2002 and 2020 worldwide. The results are fascinating. In Europe and North America, regions with approximately 75,000 wolves sharing territory with hundreds of millions of people, only 12 attacks were documented in 18 years, resulting in 14 victims. Only 2 were fatal, both in North America. This represents a dramatic change from medieval times. But why? The theory most accepted by scientists is that centuries of intensive hunting created a kind of natural selection of fear. Wolves that didn't have natural fear of humans were systematically eliminated throughout generations. Only the most cautious survived to pass their genes forward. It's a fascinating irony. Our own historical brutality against these animals may have been what saved us from them. But there's always a but. The attacks haven't completely disappeared. They still happen, mainly in 3 specific situations. Rabid wolves, wolves in conditions of extreme hunger, and wolves that have lost their natural fear of humans due to excessive exposure. The study identified 489 victims between 2002 and 2020, with 380 from rabid wolves, 67 from predatory attacks, and 42 from defensive attacks. The vast majority occurred in Asia and Eastern Europe, where rabies is still a public health problem. So what did we learn from the beast of Louviers and its 9,000 predecessors? First, that medieval fear of wolves wasn't just superstition. It was a rational response to a real and present threat. Second, that our relationship with wild nature has changed drastically. Today, you're much more likely to be struck by lightning than to be attacked by a wolf in Europe or North America. But perhaps the most important lesson is this. History shows us that humans and predators can coexist, but only when we respect both the power of nature and our own capacity to shape animal behavior over generations. The last wolf in Normandy was killed in 1888, a female weighing only 88 pounds. Today, some wolves are slowly returning to France, coming from the Italian Alps. The question that remains is, will we ever again hear the howl of wolves echoing through Norman lands? If you found this story fascinating, don't forget to smash that subscribe button and hit the bell icon for more historical mysteries that will change your perspective on the past. Trust me, you won't want to miss what's coming next. And since you made it this far, I've left a special video as a gift. A story that will leave you questioning everything you thought you knew about human nature. The link is in the description below. Until our next historical adventure.